All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Raul Cepeda Jr. On behalf of Barcodes Group, Byte, and ELO, I'd like to thank you for attending our webinar today on the benefits of Android in hospitality and retail. We know your time is precious, and we hope you gain some valuable insights today into the solution that we'll be covering. We do have a Q&A feature available on this webinar, so please feel free to send us any questions along the way, and we'll address them towards the end as time allows. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Hong, co-founder of Byte. Jeff?
Thank you so much, Raul. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. And I'm thrilled here to talk a little bit more about benefits of hospitality of Android. And one thing my company does a lot of. But before I really kick it off any further, I'd love to introduce Joanna, who is one of my favorite customers and work very closely. And she's currently the IT director at Fazoli's. So we'll explore her side of the story in just a moment. All right, so just a bit of background about my company, Byte. So we like to build ourselves as the most intelligent omnichannel ordering platform. So what that really means is that, hey, we'll take care of helping guests order and your order experience, whether you're in a restaurant or at a university or in a hotel. Anytime you use a kiosk, or it could be using web ordering or allowing guests to even use their own mobile phones. So if it's anything ordering related, my company Byte really helps enable customers to do so. And currently we work with some of the best and kind of coolest brands in the industry. Fazoli's you'll hear from today, and then some of our other clients, some universities, office catering, and other quick service restaurants and fast casual concepts. So I'm thrilled to have such a robust and established customer base. And when we start digging into what made Byte a little bit more successful was really the kind of drive and momentum from the entire industry of adapting self-ordering technology, and something you guys are here to learn about today. So when we embarked on delivering kiosks for quick service restaurants, we noticed a kind of three main pillars of very tangible benefits. The first one is that by allowing guests to self-order, it actually raises the average check. And at Byte, we've seen average check increases from 10% to 50%, and it can even go beyond that. So we're seeing a really good uptake there. The second is by adopting kiosk technology, we're allowing restaurant operators to operate more effectively and efficiently and reduce some of their expenditures they might incur with labor, and also staff appropriately. You can handle the peaks and troughs of kind of the lunch and dinner models by enabling kiosks to help share some of that burden of guest ordering. And finally, we're driving more throughput through the industry as well. Just you're enabling more points of service and more points of interaction. So previously you might have had a bottleneck because you could only have 2 cashiers. Well, guess what? You can put in 3, 4, 5 kiosks and really enable your kitchen to produce a bit more effectively and serve guests faster. So when we started doing this business, actually, I'll admit that I built it in iOS first, in Apple's platform. And very quickly on, we discovered, hey, there are some limitations and we should explore Android. And the first reason that we chose to explore Android to really start building out my business was the availability and adaptability of the hardware. As you are well aware, Apple really only develops a couple models of iPads, and that was our predominant use case before. So they only had a couple of screen sizes that we could really build on. But with Android, you're not limited by the screen size anymore. You can go from something as small as a 7-inch screen that's a handheld for even your team members to use, or it can go up to the larger 40, 50-inch screens that can take up the size of a wall. And it really allows you that flexibility and understanding what type of statement you want your restaurant to make and what type of experience you want your guests to be able to have. If it's very something like shareable, you want to also use that screen real estate to advertise when it's periods of low traffic. You might opt for a larger screen and play a video on it. So we're seeing a lot of different use cases and different desires from our customers, and that kind of experience allows us to really cater to what they want. The second piece is actually the peripherals. So with Android, you're actually able to have different peripherals attached to it. A lot of our devices have a USB port at the back and on the sides. So we can connect other things like printers, scales, webcams, temperature sensors. So there's a lot of options and things that we can just easily bolt on to an Android screen that is not always accessible with other types of platforms. The second advantage of building on Android is the supportability. And there's a few very cool features that are baked into the Android software, and ELO in particular allows us to explore a bit further. So the first one is what I deemed as control and remote capability. So I can see what's happening on the screen, and my support team can then control, take the entire screen over, take the device over, and really help troubleshoot our clients when they get stuck. I know that our team at Byte chases perfection, but we're not often very perfect. So having that additional tool to control the screen and see what's going on in real time is invaluable to us. The second advantage for support related issues is versioning. Sometimes we'll like to do a custom build for a particular customer that they might have want a particular feature or a particular integration. With other platforms, controlling which device gets which version, and worse after if you have to update it, it can be a complete mess. We don't have a team of technicians who go into the field to update each device individually. So we can do it within our own command center, and we can select which devices get which update. And if people need to jump versions, that can be done as well. If we need to force updates at a particular day and time, we can also do that. And a lot of our restaurants operate pretty long hours. So for us, we can schedule the updates and any version controls that need to happen at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. So it minimizes the interference with any operations. And finally, the last reason that I want to share is really the breadth of software development. And in particular, iOS has, I don't know if you all know this, but has a gatekeeper, that's Apple, and they will require 2 days to turn around any updates that you might pass through. While with Android, you don't necessarily have to go through that type of gatekeeping effect. You can build something, release it immediately. And that speed has allowed us to become very effective at solving problems quickly, but also making changes for our customers when sudden needs arise. The second piece is the integration opportunity. So almost every company that we work with has an Android SDK, and these are necessary for building out payment integrations, hardware integrations like scales and printers, and that's not always available in all platforms. Windows was another popular one that had a lot of support, but as a lot of companies are now younger startups, they're not really building against a Windows infrastructure either. So if you're looking for new tools, chances are they would have offered it in an Android and sometimes an iOS SDK. But just by nature of having the largest install base of mobile devices, Android gives you that flexibility to do more with it. Now I'd love to bring in Joanna, and we can talk about her experience at implementing Android devices and specifically Byte kiosks at Fazoli's. So Joanna, I'll ask if you can unmute yourself while we talk about a couple questions.
Thanks for the reminder, Jeff.
No worries. So the first question is, why did you consider implementing kiosks in the first place? And why did you consider like upgrading your ordering experience?
Afternoon, everybody. The first thing, we at Fazoli's we've seriously invested in our IT and our infrastructure over the last few years, really bringing up what was an extremely antiquated system. We've invested a lot into our POS technology and the integrated systems. One of the things that we really liked about Byte as time went on, we've integrated with more third-party vendors and really brought all of those so that our POS is the hub. It gives us a lot of flexibility. One of our focuses is really accommodating the guests and being able to have an ordering solution for each type of guest. You know, some of them really want to place an order online. Some of them, we've been around for 28 years. Some of them are very, very loyal guests, which we're thankful for, and they're more comfortable going to a cashier in person. Some of them, more of the younger groups, are much more comfortable going to a self-service kiosk. And we just really wanted to make sure that we're able to provide those options for our guests and make them as comfortable as possible. Obviously, we were a little bit ahead of the game. We started our first restaurants in 2019, so our group has had the pleasure of working with Byte for the last just over 2 years. We started before the whole COVID situation, and got our teams and our guests starting to get used to the idea of it. And then it was just so helpful for us once everything happened. We were able to really utilize those kiosks. People were feeling much more comfortable at the time. You know, you can put all the safeguards in place that are available, masks and gloves and plexiglass, but having the Byte kiosks with a UVC light that's sanitizing it, it really put a lot of our guests more at ease. And that's our goal overall. That was definitely making it easier and, you know, constant upsells. It's a consistent upsell opportunity. Honestly, we use it as a little bit of a POP solution. So we'll use the menu cover to focal point on special items that are coming out or brand new items, things like that. The graphics, just getting what an entree looks like in front of the guest. So we had a lot of benefits with it. We had a couple of things in mind, but we got a lot more benefits, I think, out of it than we originally even anticipated.
That's great. You brought up a few interesting points, and I didn't want to look too much, but since you brought them up, I can dig a little deeper there. The first was during COVID, Fazoli's approached to Byte and asked, hey, with the spread and people being more cautious in terms of what they want to interact with, we want to improve safety measures. And we were able to source a UVC light, or help source rather, a UVC light that can clip onto the Android interface. And as we're searching through options, we found that there are a lot of peripherals that worked with the Android form factor, and specifically Elo's form factor. So it gave us, we didn't have to customize or ask people to custom build things. There were a lot of off-the-shelf components that were readily available.
For us, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The UVC lights that you guys were helping us with, it was literally plug and play. We had them shipped to our operators. Our managing partners were installing them in the restaurants for us. You know, even things like credit cards, moving to a different credit card platform, all we had to do was change out a base. All we had to do was change out the mount for it, and everything else works just as it did before.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. The second point that Joanna mentioned, I want to reiterate, was the ability to use the kiosk, not necessarily just as an order taking mechanism, but it's also one, helping to drive recommendations and drive up the average check, and two, using it as a POP to help promote their latest seasonal offers. So it's you're taking something that didn't have any marketing space before, and you're creating a new guest awareness and guest education tool. So that is a very nice bonus.
We've seen a fairly consistent increase over the last couple of years above what our regular in-store PPA is. We have seen a little bit of a bump from those placed on the kiosk, and for us, we have plenty of POP screens in the restaurants that filter through, 9, 10 images. But to have that one item that we really want to focus on being on the kiosk cover screen So even our kiosks are countertop mounted. We don't really do the freestanding ones, but having that countertop mount with that image on there, even when somebody is not on the kiosk, while people are in line, they're still seeing that image and seeing those fried mozzarella cubes, and hey, those look really good. You know, it's a great tool for us in general, for sure.
Awesome. So we talked a bit about the highlights of choosing to upgrade your experience and kind of why you might have picked us. What are some of the lowlights or challenges that you had with deploying?
I think in the very beginning, the biggest challenge with the deployment was the adoption from the guests. Like I said, we're very long-term, 20-something years we had already been in business. Our guests weren't used to seeing anything like this. They were comfortable with going to a cashier at the time. And that was probably our biggest struggle. We did work, though, with the team at Byte who, maybe within a matter of a month or two, were able to turn around a new feature for us. And we started promoting for every guest that used the kiosk, every order over X amount, we would include a free cookie. So they built a feature for us that would accommodate that request. And it's not to say that we were buying them, but that trial for what a cookie would cost, getting them to try it was absolutely worth it. And we do that at the beginning for each store when we originally implemented. We do that offer for about a month or so, just to get the trial. But once the guests started using it, it was a super quick guest experience. It's super simple to use. A couple of buttons. If you're not one of those guests that has a lot of changes that they need to make, because we do limit what we expose on the kiosk as far as available modifiers and things like that. It's extremely customizable. We do limit it a little bit, but it's a super easy, super quick guest experience, as a line buster station or just somebody coming in, you want to order one item. And our guests really adopted to it well after we got that first trial attempt. They really adopted to it well, but that first adoption was a little bit more difficult in the very beginning.
Yeah. And one thing to note is that guest behavior is sticky. It's like almost any other habit. As soon as someone gets exposure to it once, there might be some hesitation. You do it the second time. And if there's a tangible offer, or tangible benefit for the guest, they'll do it 2 or 3 times. And pretty soon that's becomes second nature to them. So that's a great story. Thank you for sharing. The last question I had for you today was, from your perspective as an operator, what tips would you give to someone who might be considering doing the same thing?
So the big things that I would take as a takeaway, the best tips that we've come up with, and working with Byte, a lot of them were suggestions that we worked on collaboratively. But having somebody, you have to spend a little money to make money. Having somebody for those first couple weeks at least that's sort of available, guiding people to the kiosk and helping them, walking them through if they have questions, really having your management teams explain it to your staff. How does this work? And those kinds of things. But what we would do was we would keep somebody up at the counter and have, people pull as a line grew. We'd have that extra person kind of pull, hey, would you like to come over and try our new self-service kiosk? You cut the line a little bit and just guide them over that way and kind of encourage them instead of just some people looking at it, get it used. And then as people see others in line, it would help guide them over. And there's always that person if somebody did have a question for the first couple of weeks. But I would definitely suggest for us, like I said, we did a free cookie with X spend. I think that was hugely helpful in the adoption rate. And then having that person that was able to kind of cherry pick a couple of guests as the lines got a little bit long, I think that was super helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely saw the results after your cookie promo idea, and we're very encouraged by it. So we've also taken that same tactic and kind of trained our other customers to do something very similar. So really great to hear that that worked out. Thank you so much for joining me today, Joanna. I want to kick it back to Raul, who will introduce a little bit more about the ELO experience and the ELO Touch portfolio.
Thanks, Jeff, and Johanna. Again, thanks for joining and providing some input on your experience there. So when we talk about the full solution, Barcodes and Bytes also partners with ELO here to provide a comprehensive touch portfolio. It includes a range of 10 to 65 inch and a wide variety of touch computers that span around all the different operating systems, whether it's Android, Windows, Linux. In addition to the touch monitors and computers, as mentioned before, we offer some kiosks, floor stands, management software, and then obviously a wide range of accessories like the barcode scanners. If you go to the next slide, please, Jeff. It's also clear that customer and consumer purchasing habits have changed over the last 18 months. This is really the case in the QSR space, where self-service technologies are being adopted by businesses and consumers. Some statistics show that more than 70% of consumers have tried self-checkout, and more than half of those users plan to continue doing so because of the ease of use and the convenience. So this is something that's shaping up in the QSR space, and we're continuing to address it based on customer demand. Next slide. And then one solution that's really led the way, as you've all probably experienced, is contactless pickup. Nearly half of our consumers have used a version of contactless pickup for the first time as a result of COVID-19. With 83% of consumers stating that convenience shopping and pickup is more important now than it was 5 years ago, having a seamless and contactless pickup experience is becoming more of a must-have than a nice-to-have. So again, addressing your customers' concerns should be, first and foremost, one of your biggest priorities out there, and contactless pickup is becoming one of those needs. Next slide. So now that you've learned a little bit about Byte and ELO's offering, you might be asking yourself, how does Barcodes Group fit into everything? So as an elite, partner of ELO, the different Barcodes Groups entities offer design, deploy, and support services that are required to get these solutions implemented and maintained. So from a design and deployment standpoint, we have a highly experienced professional services team that can conduct on-site assessments that enable us to design a customized solution based on your environment. And then we work with ELO and Byte to develop and integrate a full hardware and software solution to meet your needs, and more importantly, alleviate the pain points that you might have. From a support standpoint, we deploy all the hardware, whether that's ELO, the touchscreens, the kiosks, the barcode scanners. We can offer what we call our true support services, which include a mixture of help desk support for your employees, configuration, staging, and a bunch of other value-add services. We do have a very experienced staff to deliver troubleshooting and repair services for all the hardware that's associated with the deployment. And then as North America's largest supplier of consumables, we have a lot of barcode labels, receipt paper, ribbon, print head, and other things ready to go on the shelf to make sure that you're always in stock at your different facilities. So ultimately, our goal is to partner with your business to get you up and running, but more importantly, we want to keep you up and running with future-proof technologies like those that you saw today. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the Q&A feature. So we have a few questions here. The first one, I think, Johanna, I guess I'll pose this to you, is we have an attendee that asks, which loyalty program do you use at Fazoli's?
We are currently integrated with Punch as our loyalty program.
The second question I have here is, how do you inform the guest of the offer for first-time users?
From our standpoint, we actually added, because we design our own menu screen images, so we added a little call out on the menu screen image itself. So the first thing that the guests would see would be our, for example, it was our promo item, our LTO item, and then there was a little badge on there that called out free cookie with the purchase.
Thank you. And then the last question we have here is, what is your lead time on hardware right now? And I could take that one. So obviously, we're all experiencing what we all are seeing as global supply chain issues right now with hardware. So I could tell you that, from our standpoint, there are devices that we hold in stock, but we are seeing some rather lengthy lead times on some touch screens because of chipsets and other shortages out there. So we've seen upwards of 20 weeks on some of these things, but you can feel free to reach out to Barcodes. We always have options out there. We might have to modify the configuration a little bit, but in most cases, we've been able to provide some solution for most of our customers out there that'll fit their need. And the more we can obviously forecast and know when we have to get a deployment rolled out, the more we can make sure that we have the product in stock. Let me see, I got one. Let's see, I think we got one more question. And I'll pose this one, I guess. On the same topic of adoption, how did employees respond to adding kiosks into stores? So Jeff, I don't know if you want to answer that one.
So I only have my perspective from being the software provider. And we've seen it as, we've actually explained it a few different ways depending on the service models of where the kiosks are going into. In some cases, it gives employees an opportunity to get out from behind the cashier's counter and interact with guests more, and play up to some of their strengths and having that guest interaction. Because they're freed up, they can go around, circle the dining rooms, help offer additional services if they need to, like, can I fill up a drink, or can I help you out with ordering at the kiosk, like Johanna mentioned. So we've seen a bit of kind of redistributing and reallocating some of the straight cashier staff. We've also heard folks had some resistance to it. Unsurprisingly, that is a concern as well. And we've seen it usually be addressed kind of a couple months after the kiosks have been around for a bit. They're more comfortable seeing it and using it, and to know that, hey, ultimately some guests always want to pay cash. And unfortunately, that is a limitation for Byte, where we don't really support any cash machines or the ability to accept cash. And there are certain things that you still want a cashier to help out with, right? So I don't think it's going to a completely cashierless environment, but how do we enable our operator partners, staff to have more meaningful guest interactions? So Johanna, I don't know if you've heard or seen anything from your own experience as well.
No, I would second what you had. Our cashiers were very comfortable with it. Like I said, we use it more for line busting when the line got long. It allowed our team members, our managers, to be able to get out from behind the counters and actually we're known for our breadsticks. It's our signature item. Get out there and do breadstick runs and follow up with guests and make sure that they're having a good dining experience. And where before they were stuck behind that counter, they had to be back there in case somebody walked in the door. Still keeping an eye out if somebody walks in and they're standing up at the counter, but these days, a lot more people are going over to the kiosk when they come in. They don't see somebody behind the counter. They'll go right over to the kiosk, place their order, and go on. Our team members adopted it very well.
All right, perfect. Well, I think that concludes the Q&A portion here. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. So on behalf of Barcodes Group, Elo, and Byte, we'd like to thank you for joining the webinar today on the benefits of Android. And if you have any further questions or would like one of our experts to reach out for a free consultation or demo, please feel free to reach out to your preferred solution provider on the screen here, or you can feel free to reach out to me directly via the contact information on the screen as well. Thanks again, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.